So I think I'm gonna try to get the 4 8-in-1s laid out today, put together for the Birdies beds. Got them from Epic Gardening. These ones are the short ones, just like these guys. We're actually gonna make them all connected, or do at least 2 connected, and then aisle, and then 2 connected. And so one of the concerns is we have our hose link that Jay was great and put in the ground last year before we designed this area, and being able to snake through is still important because we're probably not going to put our water system in until next year. So eventually we'll have irrigation systems where it'll run under the mulch, under the ground, to each bed, and then up inside the bed, in the corner or in the center somewhere, we will have a spigot in each one of these beds, with potentially some really cool irrigation setup, drip lines and things. So we're gonna play around a little bit once we actually see these up and running. All right, so this is equivalent to 1 8-in-1 bed. I just used all of the side pieces just in a straight line, and I've got 2 of the corners that we will make little mini beds out of. So we only needed 2 corners on this first side. So I'll do the second bed and do the long side on this side. Although I might do it this side just to see the length there. Here's the pieces that come in one box. So there's 2 of these little skinnier sides, 4 of the bigger ones. This is the width that we use, and then the 4 corners. And so what we've done before was we've taken the 4 corners and just made a little bed. The bed back, the wind's picking up. The bed back here is actually 4 corners from the tall 8-in-1 bed that we had used double beds for. So this bed is the same size that the small one, the short one, would be. And so having those for flowers, or I was even tempted to do rhubarb in one of them. So I'm trying to figure out where to put rhubarb, and it likes it to be acidic. So the fertilizer that I need to put in that for the rhubarb is more aligned with like blueberries and things like that. So we'll see what I end up doing with the rhubarb. But this project is coming along. I still have quite a bit to do, so I will keep you guys updated. So this is what 2 beds on one side will look like, with one of the panels, long panels on the width. It's gonna be so awesome. I'm looking at this saying, now this will be a true quote-unquote epic garden now, in Kevin style or whatever. I think they were calling these mega beds or mega raised beds or something like that when you put a couple together. But having this one big long bed, it's gonna have, I think, 4 or 5 rows of onions right down the whole center. We're gonna have lower and lean trellising, and then we're gonna have 2 rows of big beef and Cherokee carbon combined tomatoes. So really excited. I am on box 4, about halfway done, and the measurement is roughly 27 feet, maybe a little bit more, for what the length should be, which is pretty awesome. I think this is going to be so much fun. We are probably going to put some stabilizing supports into the bed, maybe 3 places, at least 2. So I'm guessing 3 though, just because we do get frost here in Massachusetts for the winters. The short beds here have no supports. They didn't need it. But not having any center cross pieces might be a big mistake, so I think we'll plan for that up front. And we're actually even going to add some more cross pieces in the 8-in-1s from last year. With the frost, they did bow a little bit, in different areas and sink a little bit. So before we top off most of these beds over here, the tall ones, we're gonna dig in the center and add some pipe there. But I'm still pretty excited about this. Can't wait to see once we get it actually all installed. So starting to put the big pieces together. Jay should be home soon. Maybe he'll be able to help me using some of the boxes to help hold up some of these pieces, because we really need to put some of those supports in, like I was mentioning earlier. So I'll probably keep this U as it is here, and then go down, do the U at the other end, and then the middle pieces I'll wait for Jace. So Jay's setting up the stakes so that we can run a line and make sure that we get this squared off better. It's a little flimsy, as you can tell. We're using the boxes to help hold the edges up when we're putting it together. So we are going to have to continue to dig in down here. The middle is the low point, so we might have to build that up and then dig in on the back too to make it actually level all the way across. So still a lot of work left to go. Again, this is 4 beds worth of the Birdies 8-in-1 raised beds from Epic Gardening. I do have a code, Flicker5, if you want to do that, or if you're going to buy more than a couple, just give an email over to them or message me and I'm happy to connect you. I can help you make sure you get everything you need. Right, so we just went along and dug out underneath that end. This whole area slopes slightly down away from me. So we're just going to try to make it so that it follows the string evenly, but it's not perfectly level. We also then measured the aisle here. We do 56 inches. I know a few people have asked me, and the reasoning for that was that we wanted to be able to easily fit our garden carts and our wheelbarrows and still be able to walk around the wheelbarrow if it's in the middle of the aisle. So we're matching all the aisle spacing here. Just a quick note, we did smaller spacing in between for this walkway. So we have the main walkways and then just the smaller spacing, which a wheelbarrow will fit in, but not someone walking by it. So next up is to actually do all the tightening of the screws. And so Jay has his little screw gun. It's gonna go through pretty quickly and tighten those. That'll help it start holding its shape much better. And then from there, we'll update you on next steps. So half of this tightened. You can see how much better it stands once you tighten it. We haven't done this other left side yet. Can you spin the hose link? So we came back and added a second support. We think will help with keeping this more aligned. Some of it is waiting to add the soil in order to help push these edges back out, whereas the bottom might be where we want it to be here, but this needs to actually come out to here. But the area right there in the center was having a little bit harder of a time. All right, so we're gonna adjust the supports a little bit more. The one on the bottom in the middle there was actually one that we had cut for one of the other beds before, so we're gonna find the other ones that are full length, full 2 pieces, so that it doesn't get sucked in on the bottom. You can kind of see where it gets sucked in a little bit there. We just went through to try to make sure that it's level across this way, at the support areas as well. So small little adjustments needed to be made there, some big adjustments in the middle as expected. So it's starting to look really good. I'll give you the view from across the other beds. It's 27 feet long by 44 inches across, I think, roughly. So same width as these beds, but 27 feet, which I am so excited. It's actually a little longer than I was originally planning. When I did the drawings, I had done 3 across, but then I realized that I wanted to get an extra bed to do the width, the same as these beds, so that one, they'd look good for Jay's OCD. Everything has to be matching, but then also it would give me a little bit extra space. So I am really excited about that. and how this is coming out. The soil we're using on the bottom is last year's pile of compost, which did get the plow over top. I think I talked about that in earlier videos. So it does have some gravel and sand in it. But 27, so in a greenhouse environment doing lower and lean, you can put 1 tomato every foot. So that actually gives me a lot more tomatoes in this one bed, and I am so excited. Also, a lot more space across this entire center for more onions. So plan will be, I'm guessing it's going to be 4 rows of onions down the whole center of this bed. And then also we'll then have to pull some of the onions early, which will be fine, depending on where we are able to put our lower and lean trellis supports. So really excited about how this is coming. I think it's going to look really fantastic. Now you can really see next to all the other beds. So next I need to put down some all-purpose fertilizer. I like to use the down to earth. I bought a 50-pound bag from our local hydroponic store in Westminster, Massachusetts. It's called Emerald City. Great place. Great guys that work there and own there. So what I'm going to do is sprinkle some in on the top, mix it into the top few inches, and then water it in. And I was playing with stakes. They're different widths apart right now. Trying to figure out how much of the center I can take for the rows of onions, because all of these onions here need to get planted. Onions like to get planted 4 weeks before your average last frost date, so they can tolerate a light frost. And they've been out here in 35 degrees and done fine overnight. So my goal is to try to get these planted, but it is really hot. So hot that I actually had to open up the hoop house sides, which I was hoping to wait until we were really above 40 at night, because we tape the sides so these roll up. But it was even with the door open, it's over I think it's like 98 degrees or so when I went in there to check, and I just opened it up, so it should be cooling down. But I've got tomatoes in there. They don't want to be that hot. The potatoes, so stuff on the ground is not so bad, but the stuff that's up on tables is in the higher heat. So I opened that up. Also the green stalk is pretty high, so some of the lettuce and things like that I don't want to wilt. But it is a pure blue sky today, all day long. Our solar generation is going to be huge today. So that's always exciting. But just sitting here, regrouping. I sent Jason inside. I think we both got a little bit too much sun today. I've got to come back and take all the plastic off, like I said. We leave the plastic on until the very last minute. It's been a great best practice for us. We just make sure to peel it back about 3 inches on each side so that when you're putting the screws in, you're not sandwiching plastic in there. Yeah, compost is great, full of worms, full of life, has a nice earthy smell, not bad smell. It's a 12-month aged composted manure from a local farm that we've been getting. Worked really well last year in these beds, so we got another delivery of, I think it was another 8 yards. But really nice, holds the water. It's not like the sandy soil I've been dealing with over there. And so this, again, will be onions down the center, eventually onions all the way around the border, I think, as well. I'll have to see how that looks. And then tomatoes in a greenhouse environment, when you're doing lower and lean trellising, you can put them every foot. So this is 27 feet long of a bed by 44 inches wide, or I think I have to maybe 45 inches wide, but somewhere in there. But what that means is that I could be putting in, let's say, 25 tomatoes on this side and 25 tomatoes on this side, which is much more than what I had planned, because we ended up making this a little bit longer than our original plan, being it 4 full of these beds here instead of 3 plus the width of the ends on the 4th, and then making the other pieces of the leftover of the 4th its own bed. We just put them all together here. So we ended up with 4 supports. It's not perfect, as Jay would say, but it's pretty darn close. Good enough for us. And you look down the line, it looks pretty good, I think. And so we'll get the onions planted, and then we're gonna design the trellises, because we're gonna need, similar to this setup, we're gonna need a place so I can hang the strings for each of the tomatoes and the spools. So we're gonna have a trellis set up here for the 2 sides, so that the tomatoes can grow up to the trellis, and then once they get to that part, we'll actually let more string out and lower the plant down, and then move it to the next hook and move everything over. So that's how lower and lean works. If you haven't looked it up, I do have a video on that from last year showing how we use the PVC trellises with the Birdies beds. This year, I think he's going to probably do some wood and cable, more traditional greenhouse style. We're also going to do some lower lean in the hoop house, but it's too hot, I think, right now to plant. I'm going to have to wait a couple hours. So I'm going to get out of the sun for a bit. I just figured I'd close out this video for now and continue updates once I get this planted with onions. Once we get the trellis in, we'll show you that. Our average last frost date is around May 20th or so. And so I think we're looking pretty good at the 10-day forecast anyways, but we won't push it on the tomatoes more than a week either way. So it'd be good to get the onions in. And then I still have to do a bunch more seeding of things. We'll be putting, we'll be planting seeds for corn, which is crazy to think about. So the early plantings of corn. We do actually put also direct seed corn out in the field too, but I'll get some corn starts done. I've got zinnias and marigolds that I'm behind on starting. I've got amaranth I'm behind on starting, and I think I wanted to seed some more. I need to split more basil down in the basement and check on all the basement plants, but I think that's going to end up being tomorrow. So anyways, thank you for watching. If you guys have any questions about the design and the purpose of why I wanted one big long bed, please let me know. Like I said in earlier videos, this won't just have tomatoes, but that's the main crop I'm planting for. So it'll be tomatoes, onions. I don't think I'll put carrots in this one. I think I'll put carrots in the other ones. But sometimes I'll put a border of carrots around too to help with adding nitrogen and give me more carrots. This will have basil. Parsley I ended up planting over here, so I'm not sure if I will put more parsley out here. We do plan to dehydrate more more parsley this year for our pantry. Probably have alyssum, marigolds, and I was even toying with the idea of putting a whole row of zinnias down the center of this. I think it would be gorgeous. It would help with the pollinators, and you'd have all the tomatoes all the way around it, and then the onions between those. But I'm going back and forth. I think it would be beautiful, but I want the onions to have more sun. So with the lower lean, I do prune the tomatoes to a true vine, so I don't let any suckers grow. I pick those off. I pick off all the greenery up to the lowest fruit set, and I continue to do that, so it really is more like a true vine at that point. So still playing with that, but there will be a lot of other things in here. I do have a bunch of alyssum that I need to split out as well that I started, and I could be planting potatoes out in one of the beds, but I just haven't had time yet, and we've got some good potatoes in the hoop house. So anyways, again, thanks for watching. I'm kind of rambling at this point. I appreciate all your feedback and any questions or any suggestions you might have for what you'd like to be to see planted this year, and we'll keep you posted.